All right, you asked for it, and we aim to deliver. We're going deep on spina bifida today. And not just the surface stuff.
Yeah, we're diving into the latest, the hope that's out there, and honestly, the incredible stories of folks living with this condition.
Exactly. It's about more than just knowing the term, right? It's about understanding the impact. And get this, the CDC estimates something like 1,500 babies are born with spina bifida every year in the U.S. alone.
And that's it's not just a number, that's 1,500 journeys, 1,500 unique experiences of strength and resilience we're talking about.
So true. Okay, so imagine the spinal cord.
Yeah.
This vital, information superhighway in our bodies. Now imagine it not forming quite right. That's kind of the gist of spina bifida, yeah.
Yeah, you've got it. And what's crucial is this usually happens crazy early in pregnancy. We're talking before a woman even knows she's expecting. Often, around day 28, there's this structure, the neural tube. It'll become the brain and spinal cord later. It's supposed to close up. But with spina bifida, that closure doesn't fully happen.
Okay, so that incomplete closure, that's the root issue. But spina bifida, it's not like a one-size-fits-all thing, right? More of a spectrum, from what I understand.
You're exactly right. It's a spectrum, and each point on it has its own set of challenges. Let's start with myelomeningocele, the most severe type.
Ah, okay. Now this is the one that people might picture, right? With the visible sac on the baby's back.
That's the one. And sadly, it's not just an aesthetic difference. That sac, it contains parts of the spinal cord itself, nerves. They're exposed, very vulnerable.
And that exposure leads to those more severe disabilities we hear about.
It can, yeah. We're talking potential for paralysis below that affected area, trouble controlling bladder and bowel function, even increased risk of hydrocephalus.
Hydrocephalus. That's where fluid builds up in the brain, isn't it? Sounds incredibly serious.
It is. Often requires surgery, and not just once, sometimes multiple times throughout a child's life to manage. Big impact, not just for the child, but the families too,
Absolutely. So that's myelomeningocele, but what about meningocele? Where does that fall?
So meningocele, it's almost like things get a little less predictable. You've still got a sac-like thing happening, but the spinal cord itself, safely tucked away inside.
So less direct damage to those absolutely essential nerves.
Exactly. That's why with meningocele, some folks, they might not have any neurological issues. Others, they might face some physical challenges, but the range is huge.
Wow, such a variation within just that one type. Okay, then there's the sneaky one, Spina Bifida occulta, the hidden one.
Apt name, right. Many people only find out they have it by accident. X-ray for something totally unrelated, and there it is.
No visible signs, maybe no symptoms. Wild. Each form of spina bifida, so different. So what causes these variations? Genetics, environment, like a bit of column A, bit of column B situation.
It's really more like a whole bunch of factors colliding, to be honest. Genetics are involved, definitely. Certain medications during pregnancy, too. Maternal health, things like diabetes or obesity, those can increase the risk. But you know what often gets missed until it's too late?
Nutrition. Because that's where we get to the folic acid, right? Everyone's heard about it, but it feels like a huge GE takeaway, especially for anyone even thinking about starting a family.
Huge, you're right. Folic acid, it's a B vitamin, acts like the building block for a healthy neural tube. Problem is, it's those super early weeks of pregnancy when most women don't even know yet that are vital for that tube's development.
So waiting till that positive test to start with the folic acid, that could be too late.
Unfortunately, yeah, it happens. That's why doctors are adamant about all women of childbearing age. Prenatal vitamins, folic acid in them. Basic step, but huge difference.
We're talking like reducing the risk of neural tube defects by up to 70%, right? That's huge. But let's say spina bifida does happen. How early can it be detected?
Early detection, it's essential. Not just for families getting ready, but because early on. There's potential to change things, really impact the child's life down the line.
And that's where we get into things like fetal surgery, right? Surgery while the baby's still in the womb. That sounds like something out of sci-fi, honestly.
It does, doesn't it? Sounds futuristic, but it's becoming more common. For families facing that severe spina bifida, the myelomeningocele, it's an option.
Wow. Okay, break it down for me. How does that even work?
Okay, so picture this. Surgeons go in, incision in the mother's abdomen, they reach the uterus, the baby, and then they carefully repair that opening in the baby's spine, covering those exposed nerves, protecting them as much as possible.
And this is all happening early on in the pregnancy, right?
Yeah, we're talking between 23 and 26 weeks, usually. It's a delicate procedure, not without risks, but the potential benefits. Huge.
But reducing the severity of those disabilities we talked about.
Exactly. Studies are showing fetal surgery, can mean a lower chance of needing a shunt later to deal with that hydrocephalus. And long term, it could mean better mobility for the child. It's not a cure, but it can significantly improve a child's life, their potential.
That's incredible. But what about cases where fetal surgery isn't an option? What happens after the baby is born?
So if fetal surgery isn't done, it's usually postnatal surgery within the first 48 hours after birth, typically.
And the main goal of that is?
Closing that open defect on the baby's back, it's precise work, putting those exposed nerves, the spinal cord, back where they belong, closing it all up to prevent further damage and minimize infection risk, too.
So it's kind of like what they're doing during fetal surgery, but just happening after the baby's born.
Good way to think about it. But here's the thing. Whether it's before or after birth, surgery is just one piece of the puzzle, you know? Spina bifida, it often means ongoing care, specialists.
It takes a village, right? We're talking physical therapy, probably urologists involved, orthopedists, maybe even developmental specialists.
You got it. Each one's vital. Physical therapy, that's for building strength, helping with mobility, maybe getting them comfortable with assistive devices. Urologists handle the bladder and bowel control issues that can come up. Orthopedic doctors, they're managing any bone or joint problems. It's really about covering all the bases for these kids, you know, supporting them as they grow.
That's amazing. It just shows how far we've come with treatment, resources, night and day compared to years ago.
It really is. And that brings us to something super important to remember. Spina bifida, it's not a life sentence. People are living long, fulfilling lives with this condition, defying expectations every day.
That's what we need to focus on, right? Shifting the narrative away from limitations, toward possibilities, the right care, the support. People with spina bifida can do amazing things. We're talking athletes, artists, entrepreneurs. No limits.
It's inspiring, for sure. It shows how far medicine has come and the resilience of people. But it also reminds us awareness matters. What can our listeners do right now to make a difference?
Great question. It starts simple. Talk about it. October is Spina Bifida Awareness Month. Perfect time to share accurate info, challenge misconceptions.
Exactly. Social media is huge for that. Share those infographics, boost the voices of people with spina bifida, their families. Every little bit helps.
And beyond awareness, supporting organizations like the Spina Bifida Association. The work they do is phenomenal. Funding research, pushing for better policies, and just being there for families navigating this whole journey.
Even small donations, they add up, It all goes towards research, better treatments, improving lives, and never underestimate the power of inclusion right here in our own communities.
Right. Thinking about accessibility.
Right.
Schools, workplaces, public spaces. Are ramps easy to find? Doorways wide enough? Those might seem like small things, but they can make a huge difference for someone with a disability, including those with spina bifida.
No doubt. It's about creating a society where everyone feels welcome, valued, included, able to participate fully. And to anyone listening who's touched by spina bifida, whether it's personal or you're supporting someone,
you're not alone. That's the key. There's a whole community out there ready to share their stories, offer support. Knowledge is power. That's what we keep saying, right? The more we understand, the better we can advocate for ourselves, our loved ones, a better future for everyone.
Yeah.
It's amazing to think, right, how different things were just a few decades ago. For folks with spina bifida, the medical understanding was just different.
Oh, absolutely. But today, we're talking longer, fuller lives than ever before, thanks to research, advancements in care. It's really remarkable.
It's like the focus has shifted from just managing the condition to really prioritizing quality of life. Not just adding years, but making those years meaningful.
That's it, exactly. And that's where those practical tips, the coping strategies, they become so essential. Because when you have the knowledge, right, you have the power to advocate for yourself, for your loved one. But where do you even begin?
Right. It can feel overwhelming.
It can. Honestly, the best place to start is always open communication. With your healthcare team, They're your partners in this. So finding the right mobility aids, managing bladder and bowel stuff, tackling any learning challenges, whatever it is, bring it up.
Don't be afraid to get creative either. I was reading about this woman with spina bifida. She uses those adaptive utensils meant for folks with arthritis. Makes mealtime so much easier for her.
Love that. There are so many tools out there,
Yeah.
High-tech stuff like wheelchairs, voice-activated software, but also simple things that make daily life just a bit smoother. It's about adapting, finding what works for you.
Exactly, making it work.
Yeah.
But we can't forget the emotional side of all this, right? It's a journey, and it's not always easy.
So true. Living with spina bifida or loving someone who does, It can be tough emotionally, and it's okay to admit that. It's okay to ask for help.
Absolutely. Therapy can be so beneficial, and there are support groups, online forums, all these places where people connect, share their experiences, realize they're not alone.
That's what it's all about, building that community, whether it's through local organizations, online, or even just within your own family, friends. Sharing those stories, it makes all the difference.
It really does. Because when we understand each other, support each other, we celebrate the strength of this community, the resilience. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with this. What are you hopeful for? When it comes to the future of spina bifida,
Is it a medical breakthrough? Maybe a world where accessibility is just the norm? Or even just a society that embraces difference? Whatever it is, hold on to that hope. Because that's what fuels progress, that's how change happens.
well said. Thank you all so much for joining us for this deep dive. Remember, knowledge is power. And by keeping this conversation going, we can create a brighter future for everyone whose life has been touched by spina bifida.